I got to tell you something. The other day, I was at an elementary school. And as I was walking down the hallway, I saw a group of about 10 kids. They looked like they were about 5, 6 years old. And I was watching them play, and they were giggling around and chasing each other. And as I started to get closer, I noticed this one kid out of the whole bunch. And he had his hands up like this. And he continued to just chase this one couple kids around this huddle of bodies, and he kept chasing. And as I got closer and closer, I got more and more curious. And as I started to get close to this group of kids, he come around and he almost ran right into me, and he stopped and looked at me, and he was in that position. He was looking like he was going to attack my leg, and I, from the reservation a little bit, I stood back. Like, dude, you look like a wild dog. So I bend down, curious. I said, hey, what are you? He says, I'm a lion. Ah. And he takes off chasing these kids, and they scream, and the bell rings, and they all go out to this field, assuming it's recess. And they're all running out. He maintained that character the entire time out there, chasing kid after kid. And I couldn't help myself watching this little guy maintain that character. What influenced him? What impacted him enough to really bring that character into the school to where he really thought he was a lion? And then it triggered an old thought in my heart, an old emotion that I felt while I watched this kid run. It's crazy to think that whether it be Discovery Channel or Animal Planet, how impactful that age is for a child. It made me think about my first time I ever had that thought or that impactful moment. And I ask you, do you guys remember that first time when you were watching TV or listening on the radio and you heard that voice or you saw that actor or that professional athlete and you were thinking for a second, that's going to be me? And that's what happened to me. When I saw this young man running around, it triggered an old thought in my mind about when I was 4 years old. It was back in 1985, and I was sitting in the living room in Corvallis, Montana, watching the 1985 NBA slam dunk competition with guys by the name of Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan when he had hair. That's a long time ago. And I remember watching them compete back and forth, and I was taken away. I knew right then and there, that's what I want to be. See, I come from a long list of successful athletes, well-rounded, educated, elite performers, Hall of Famers. So dreaming this big wasn't really that far out of reach. My parents asked me what I wanted for Christmas. I said, I want a basketball hoop because I want to work on my dunk game. And there's yours truly in 1985. Michael J. Fox haircut from Back to the Future. Sweater vest with blue, I don't know. Levi jeans, come on. And what's going to get the old people in this room? That shag carpet. Now I'm telling you, there's like $1,500 worth of change in that thing. I lost G.I. Joe after G.I. Joe in that thing. Oddly enough, there was always that Lego that would just resurface right when my mom or dad planted their foot down, and then I'd hear a knee buckle and a shoulder go into the wall, and then I'd hear, Ryan! Classic memories. Come grade school, I flourished. No one ever beat me. I was strong, tall, and athletic. By the time I got to middle school, I stood 5'11", about 150 pounds, and I had about a 32-inch vertical leap. Now, just to understand how high that is, that's about this high. Jump that high at 13, I would take people's breaths away. By the time I got to 8th grade, I grew to 6'1", and I weighed about 170 pounds. I averaged 6 touchdowns a game in football. I hit home run after home run. Come basketball, I averaged 35 points and grabbed about 20 rebounds a game. That was my little brother as the announcer. In the championship game, I scored 50 of our team's 79 points. I was on a mission. I was going to be successful. Nothing was going to stop me. By the time I got to high school, as a freshman, I was a varsity player. I helped lead our team to the very first state title in school history in basketball. At this point, I started getting Division I calls. Everything was looking as planned. Nothing was going to stop me. But here's the problem. When the gym went empty and the people were all gone, that's when my true battle would begin. My battle, depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. Now you might be thinking, how? Why? You were right on path of success. What people didn't know, at 12 years old, I started dealing with this thing called depression. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And being in a house full of successful, well-rounded athletes, there was a lot of sense of pride. See, we weren't supposed to really talk about these things. By the time I was 13, I lived in my 11th home. So there was never really a solid foundation. By the time I was 13, my two older siblings were out the house, and my parents started to fall apart after 20-something years of marriage. The only thing that was going well for me at this time was athletics. If athletics were to be taken away from me throughout this process of my life, I don't know where I'd be. Well, guess what? Going into my sophomore year of high school, I'm getting calls from USC, Michigan State, both Division I schools in Montana. People are drooling over this kid. I'm getting this pain in my right leg, but yet I don't know how to communicate it. So I bury it, and I try to force my way through it. This pain gets so bad that I start to lose feeling in my right leg. I start to lose feeling in my right foot. Now, you got to keep in mind, I'm trying to keep it together. Everybody's holding Ryan Wetzel in this limelight. Internally, behind closed doors, I'm falling apart, but nobody knows that. People don't see the holes being punched in the wall. My dad missing in action. My mom trying to make ends meet. Our water getting shut off. Having to return my shoes because we have to pay bills. People ain't seeing that. They're seeing a superstar. I continued to work through this pain as best I could. Until one day, my coach pulls me aside. He says, Ryan, something's up. What's going on? Coach, I can't feel my foot. It's completely numb, ice cold after a minute of running. My parents, oddly enough, got together and took me to the doctor. It was like the first time they ever really got together. And it felt good. When I got to the doctor, they jammed a bunch of needles in my leg, discovered I had a severe case of compartment syndrome. They filleted my leg like a fish. I missed football season and half of basketball season. Whew. Wait, this can't be happening. I can't, no. And if you know a teenage kid at this time, they're compulsive, right? And these kind of things like this start to send them spinning, right? Because they think this is the end of the world, right? But I managed to maintain as best I could until that green light came from the doctor to say, hey, Ryan, you're cleared to play. Okay, first game back. I heard my first 3 shots. The state's buzzing. They're gonna repeat. I go up for my 4th shot, a bunch of bodies collide and hit me from my left side. I spin around, boom. I break my wrist in 2 spots. I'm done for the season. Can you feel that? Do you feel me? My ground was ripped out from underneath me. My identity was taken apart and thrown away. I'm starting to float. I'm starting to drift. I don't like this hollow feeling in my gut, but I got to maintain the best I can, so I try my best to fake it. I don't talk to anybody about anything. I'm showing more aggression in school. My grades are taking a hit. I go to the state tournament. I'm sitting on the sidelines. Cast up here, boot on my leg. People laughing in the bleachers. Wetzel let you down. I started to make peace with myself that night. As I got home from the state tournament, I went downstairs. 16 years old. I started to pace back and forth in my bedroom. And boom, it hit me. I know exactly what's going to fix this. I'm going to kill myself. In the gut, when you're really thinking about ending your life, your body goes numb. It's like your mind freezes. You really don't know how to think. As I started to walk down the hallway and up the stairs, I felt my body going limp more and more, but my heart was in my throat. You see, these were my coping skills, was just trying to deal with it, the sense of pride. I can fix it myself. Boy, am I trying to fix it myself. I get to the back door. I open the back door. My heart's throbbing. I'm 16 years old with the cast on my arm, boot. The world is at end right now. I see the stepping stool in the backyard. I see the rope, and I see the tree branch. I take another step. Boom, boom, boom. Take another step. I pass out. As I come to, I start to think of my mother. I don't even know how long I was standing or laying there. I was crushed, devastated, but I had this rational thinking of how this would impact my mom and my dad and my brothers, even though I was in this vengeful state of mind and how I hated what was going on in my life. I don't want to do that to them. I can't. I love them, and they love me. I got up and I started to walk downstairs. As I walked downstairs, I was crying. I went to my bed. I passed out. I got up the next day. I went to my mother and I told her for the first time, Mom, I need help. My mom started to cry. She looks me in my eyes and she says, I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been watching you struggle for so long. I've been trying and trying and trying, but you would never listen to me. I felt this sense of relief in my chest. And going and sitting down with the counselor for the first time and burying all this stuff with that pride that I had and really opening up about these issues that don't have to do with sports, it was tough. I had a border around my heart. It took so much time to chisel away. But as that wall went down and I started to feel good about myself, I started to realize that there's more to life than sports. It didn't happen overnight. It was a 10-year process. In this 10 years, there was bouts of depression, medication, even a 30-day inpatient treatment program because I didn't know if the pot and alcohol I was drinking or the depression I was dealing with were the reasons why I'm losing my mind. And then I realized I have to change me so I can fix others. And I started to walk the walk. In this process, I befriended a lot of people in recovery. In this process, I worked a couple positions where I was starting to work with individuals who were on the same path as myself. In this process, I started to learn how important it is to communicate some of the hardest things that you could ever talk about. Self-improvement, the environment that I live in. How do I communicate to people? What is really important and what is not? How much do I want to put my anger and aggression into this thing? Why don't I unplug it and just turn around and start working on a better way of solving it? Instead of responding and looking at people with my fists ready to rock and roll or punching a hole in the wall, just breathe it out. take a walk. Sit down with somebody that knows how to answer some of my questions. I see that bottle of whiskey there. I see that pill bottle there. But that's not going to help me. I need to grow internally so I can be successful externally. As I laid in the yard at 16 years old, within feet of taking my own life, did I ever envision myself standing here today speaking about my experiences? Absolutely not. But I had that courage at that moment as an impulsive 16-year-old kid to stand up to this depression and anxiety and face it head on, to walk this long journey to get here today. So if I hit close to home with some of you in here or broadcasted internationally, I want you to do something with me. You see, I gave life a chance. It took years to rewire my thinking, but here I am. So I ask you to please give life another chance. Thank you.